Let's continue yesterday. Kind of all connected. That's already everything. I'm just realizing because I'm going to share this with you. It's amazing to see the hashgacha pratis of the stories related to what we're learning in the night. So let's remember what we're talking about. So the Rebbe is quoting the Chassam Sofer, who explains why mamash malachim, festival malachim, that a yid may not entreat a malach, and moreover even ask a malach to be his advocate, but another Jew, yes. And why? Because in the words of the Chassam Sofer from the Gemara, the place of the malachim, of the neshamas is higher than malachim. We're not just talking higher. Malachim are creations, and the neshamas are quote unquote a part of the likus. And all Yidden are one. It's all based, as I mentioned, on the Gemara in Rishalmi, of course in Zohar, but even in Nigla. And all Yidden are one great body. So therefore, you haven't, when you go to another Jew, any Jew, you're not going outside of yourself. It's part of the great, it's part of you. This is especially true. This is another point when it comes to the Nisim, to a leader, to a tzaddik, who is the head. In the words of the Chassam Sofer, so the head feels the pain, it's one body. So it's better, the head should address the doctor, deal with it, doctor being the Eibishter, than the finger. So go to the tzaddik. Now, when Rabbi told us this, the Sikh, I remember many years ago, at the farbrengen, he elaborated as follows. Good, so the Moshel, the Rebbe explained the Sikh, it's very big here. But in the Moshel, we still have a problem because in the Nimshel, in the Moshel, fingers can't speak. But in the Moshel, fingers can. We're the finger. Not only you can, we're all obligated to daven and have a direct relationship with Hashem. So what's the inyan of going to the tzaddik? What's the inyan? So, number one, the tzaddik is davening is for himself because he feels the pain. Doesn't answer our question fully yet either. So davening for us, good. The tzaddik feels my pain. I'm very humbled. And he prays for everybody and feels it and works. Why am I going to the tzaddik to ask? What's the inyan of discussions? The head naturally feels what's happening to every limb and organ of the body. Fine, so he's the devoted leader. But what's my avodah? So here's what Rebbe explains here. So in addition to the fact that the head feels more the pain than the finger itself, moreover, this that the finger itself feels the pain and sensitivity, this itself comes from the head, by the nervous system. So let me just read the Rebbe's words in translation. So it's like this. So there's a little chayra shaila. The Gemara says, the Medrash says, the Rashi brings it, Pashas Vayera, that the prayer of the sick for himself is better. Better the person who was actually sick prays and someone else should pray. Bit of a contradiction here. We're all one. The answer is, if the other person feels like he's another person, and if you relate to him like another person, yeah, then your tefillah is greater. When it comes to the Nasi doesn't feel like another person. Because it's his own pain, and he feels it even more. It hurts him more than it hurts the person who's in the tzara. And moreover, the second point I just said now, this itself, this is the main thing here. This itself that the finger feels the pain, this itself comes from the Rosh. So in other words, the thing of iskashrus is be alive. You want to feel the Eibishter and feel another Jew and another Jew's pain. So the more we are connected to the head, the more alive each limb and organ of the body becomes. Okay, I'm going to finish the Rebbe's words. I'm going to add some elaboration. Let's get the powerful words here. But this is translation now. This is only when you know that you're a foot. And he's totally devoted to the head. But if he thinks that he's a head, so back to the story of the Meshulach who would take money, who wouldn't take pidyonis to the Rebbe and talk to the Eibishter directly. So if you think that you're ahead, then it's not a problem about intermediary. To come to the Rebbe for advice, you can ask advice from anybody. Even, he says, even a butcher. The Gemara brings in Sanhedrin that Rav Ashi, when he would have to paskin about a piece of meat, he would gather all of the butchers of Mosa Machasya, it's a place called Mosa Machasya, and ask their opinion, and then paskin. You can ask even a butcher. So if you're going to that because he's very clever and he's experienced, and he's big Talmud Chacham, fine, that's not a problem. Get advice from anybody. But a pidyon, if you think you're ahead and you're not coming as a foot to the head, like a neshama to a neshama, Klal Yisrael, Takia, there's a question of a mutzah and don't come. Yeah. Don't come, it says, it's a question of a mutzah. Now the Rebbe concludes. This is a farbrengen of Sukkot, 1951. Shabbos Chol HaMoed Sukkot. All of those that are present here are certainly übergegeben. And even though, I'm translating here, even though by some of them it's missing, this devotion, but since the primis they are, and they say, and they have lips, they pay lip service to it. They say in words that they're devoted. No, it's also good. Similar to the Rambam says in Hilchos Gerish, the famous Rambam, when a person has to give a get and doesn't want to give the get, the Bezdin says you have to. So he's forced till he says, I want to give. What's it? What says the Rambam? He's being forced. And the Rambam explains because he wants to do the right thing. So when he says those words, they are reflective of what he really means deep down inside. If not, even though there's a gap in consciousness and personal, in his own little selfish world, but deep down he does want. So the Rebbe says, okay, Chaved, there's no problem about an intermediary. Send your panim, be connected. So it's a very powerful words here that the inyan of a pidyon nefesh, inyan of iskashus can only be if it's be'emes. Otherwise, it's not a problem of intermediaries in Yiddishkeit. But if the Yid feels that they're going where one big neshama, and when you're connecting to your own panimi, it's not somebody else, but the most intimate part of who you are, the adrab, it's the deepest connection. I just want to conclude with something we often share, and that briefly is as follows. So I want to put this on, should be heard. And that is as follows, the paradox of Lubavitch. There are many paradoxes, but here's one of them. On the one hand, Lubavitch is there's no chassidus like it, it's so Rebbe-centered. Bechlal, especially in the Deir HaShvi, the 7th generation. So if all you knew about Lubavitch, Rebbe, it's all you knew, then you would assume that it's monolithic, everybody talks the same, walks the same, speaks the same. In other Chassidic groups, that there is such thing exists. I was enlightened. There's the skiveta way of walking and talking, and there's the belzer way, and there's the geta way. Literally, Pashut walking, talking, it's a whole genre per se. And you would think that in Lubavitch, it's even more so. Rebbe, much more than any other cities. Yet the fact is that in Lubavitch, Dafka, it's highly individualistic. No two shluchim are the same, and no chassidim are the same, and there's no cookie cutter mold and ought not to be, not in anything, not in dressing, not in walking, not in talk. How is this? The answer is not a contradiction. Rebbe, and yet individualistic, and more than that, not just individualistic. The Lubavitchers are the most confident, sometimes annoyingly so, people. And starts at when someone just told me, says, "You're unbelievable, 12-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids stopping strangers in the street. Are you Jewish?" I said, "I can't do this. How do your kids do this?" In the early stage, shluchim, kids go, who knows where, they're conquering cities and worlds and continents. Confident, creative, individualistic. The answer is not a contradiction, it's adrab. The more every limb and organ of the body is fluidly connected to the brain, the more alive the fingers there is, and the toe is, and the eye and the ear. Every finger comes alive and vibrant. Adrab, because it's connected deeply to the head and the heart, for that matter, and the liver. So on the contrary, the more fluid and deeper, and the greater the bittul. The greater the bittul. Sicknesses is when it's interrupted, these flows from these primary organs. The greater the bittul of the limbs and organs to the brain and heart and liver, melech, moyach lev kovid, the more alive the individual limb becomes. The more creative, the more independent, as it were. Of course, all part of this great one whole, I, the human being. And that's the Viskashis. The Rebbe is saying if that's not there, getting advice from the Rebbe is fine. But going as a pidyon, that's got to be in the most intimate, pneumistic way. Friends, have a wonderful day. Good morning, Yimiyo. Good to see you.